Ambassador June Park stood by the large window of his office, watching rain fall over Seoul. The sky was grey and the world outside was quiet. Just another day on Earth, he thought. Then everything changed. A soft blue light filled the room. June turned around to see a strange object floating above his desk. It wasn't from Earth. The translucent rectangle glowed with symbols that shifted and changed into Korean text as he watched. An invitation, June whispered, reaching out carefully. His fingers passed through the light, but he felt a slight tingle. The message was clear. Earth had been invited to send representatives to the first Galactic Consortium Deathworld Summit. June's phone rang. It was the president. "Have you seen it?" the president asked. Every major government received one simultaneously. The UN Security Council is meeting in an hour. 3 days later, June sat in a conference room surrounded by Earth's top scientists, military officers, and diplomats. The room buzzed with excitement and fear. Dr. Hana Kim, a leading xenobiologist, stood at the front of the room showing images captured by deep space telescopes, alien ships now visible in orbit around Jupiter. "They've been watching us for decades," Hana explained. "According to the information they've shared, planets in the galaxy are classified by habitability standards. Earth is categorized as a Class 4.8 death world." Colonel Taewon raised his hand. "What exactly does that mean?" Hana clicked to the next slide. "It means our home would kill most intelligent species in the galaxy. Our gravity is too strong. Our atmosphere is filled with what they consider corrosive gas. Our temperature ranges from freezing to boiling. And our planet is crawling with what they see as dangerous life forms." "They think we're monsters," diplomat Soo-min said quietly. "Not monsters," Hana corrected. "Survivors. They're curious how we've adapted to such extreme conditions. That's why they've invited Earth to this summit, along with representatives from other death worlds." The UN Security Council debated for hours before reaching a decision. Earth would send 4 representatives: June as ambassador, Hana for scientific expertise, Taiwan for security, and Soo-min for diplomatic support. 2 weeks. Later, they waited on a specially built landing pad in the middle of the Gobi Desert. The alien shuttle descended silently, a sleek oval craft with no visible engines. "Remember," June told his team, "we represent all of humanity now." The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss. A thin, tall figure emerged, covered in what looked like a protective suit. Its head was encased in a clear bubble filled with swirling purple gas. "Greetings, Earth delegates," the alien said through a translation device. "I am Vrex, your guide to the consortium. Please board quickly. Your atmosphere is uncomfortable for me." Inside the shuttle, the team found seats designed for human bodies. Vrex stayed in a separate compartment filled with purple mist. "Your planet is quite remarkable," Vrex's voice came through speakers. "Most intelligent life evolves on Class 1 or 2 worlds with stable conditions. Class 3 worlds produce hardy species, but Class 4 and 5 worlds rarely develop spacefaring civilizations." As the shuttle left Earth's atmosphere, Vrex continued explaining. "The consortium has been aware of Earth for centuries, but contact is only made when a species achieves certain technological benchmarks." "Why invite us now?" asked Soo-min. "Recent developments on your world suggest you will achieve independent interstellar travel within 50 years. The consortium prefers to establish relations before that happens." Hana noticed how Vrex's body trembled slightly whenever he looked at them. "Are you afraid of us?" she asked directly. The alien paused before answering. "Your species evolved on a planet where most of the galaxy's intelligent life would die within minutes. You breathe oxygen, a gas that would corrode my real skin. Your world is 70% covered in a polar solvent that dissolves most organic compounds. You survive temperature variations that would kill most species, and your gravity would crush many consortium members," Taewon smiled. "But we're just people." "To us you are biological marvels," Vrex replied. "Terrifying ones." As the shuttle approached a massive space station orbiting Jupiter, June looked back at the blue marble that was Earth. "They invited us because they're scared of what we might become," he said quietly to his team. "Our job is to show them they're right to be cautious but wrong to be afraid. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Ahead lay the Deathworld summit, where humanity would meet the galaxy's other survivors for the first time. "Ready?" June asked his team. They nodded together, unaware that their arrival was already causing a stir among the consortium species. The humans had come, and nothing in the galaxy would be the same again. The doors of the docking bay opened with a soft hiss. June stepped forward first, leading his team onto Nexus Station. They had prepared for strange sights, but nothing could have truly readied them for this moment. The welcoming hall stretched before them, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Not one looked even remotely human. "There are no other mammals," Hannah whispered, her scientific mind racing to categorize what she saw. Tall, shimmering creatures that seemed made of living crystal floated rather than walked. Insect-like beings with multiple limbs clicked and chirped to each other. Clouds of colored gas contained within force fields drifted by, somehow communicating through light pulses. A small group of reptilian beings stood apart from the others. Their scales shifted colors as they watched the humans enter. "These must be fellow Deathworlders," June thought. "Welcome, Earth delegation," said a voice from overhead. "Your quarters have been prepared according to your biological needs." A hovering robot guide led them through corridors, where other beings pressed against walls to avoid coming near the humans. Some extended sensors toward them, while others quickly retreated as they passed. Their living space was large and comfortable, but Sumin immediately noticed something odd. "These walls," she said, running her hand along the surface, "they're reinforced." Taewon examined the door. "And these energy fields could contain a small explosion. They've put us in a cage." "Not a cage," Hannah corrected. "A containment unit." "They're afraid of us," June frowned. "Let's show them they needn't be." The next morning they were escorted to the Grand Chamber, where the summit would officially begin. Hundreds of species filled the tiered seating around a central stage. The humans were directed to seats marked with Earth's symbol, alone in their section, while other species mingled freely. "The Deathworld summit will now commence," announced a tall willowy being with 6 arms. "We gather to share knowledge of evolutionary adaptations and discuss integration into the wider galactic community." One by one, representatives from different Deathworld planets were called to demonstrate their special abilities. The Drak, scaled beings from a radiation-soaked world, stood in a beam of energy that would have killed a human instantly. Their scales glowed, but they showed no discomfort. Next came the Vespiri, insectoid creatures from a hive planet. 20 of them formed complex patterns with perfect coordination, moving as one organism without speaking. They built a structure, solved a mathematical sequence, and composed music simultaneously. Other species demonstrated acid resistance, the ability to survive in vacuum, and strength that seemed impossible for their size. Finally, it was Earth's turn. "The humans will now demonstrate their evolutionary advantages," the announcer said, a note of curiosity in its voice. June nodded to Taewon, who stepped onto the stage alone. "Is this all?" someone called from the audience. "Just one specimen?" June stood. "One is sufficient." Taewon began with something simple. He jogged around the stage, gradually increasing his speed until he was running. After 2 minutes, other species began to murmur. "It maintains that speed without rest," whispered a crystalline being. "How?" Next, Taewon picked up several objects placed on the stage, balls of different sizes and weights. With precise aim, he threw them into targets at varying distances. Every throw hit its mark perfectly. "Projectile weapons," hissed one of the Drak, "primitive but deadly." While still jogging, Taewon was presented with a puzzle cube that glowed with complex patterns. Without stopping his run, he solved it in under a minute, rearranging the patterns while maintaining his pace. The chamber had grown silent. "Now," said Taewon, still running and holding the solved puzzle, "I would be happy to answer questions about Earth while I continue these activities." A gasp went through the audience. "It can perform physical tasks, solve cognitive problems, and communicate simultaneously?" asked one of the gaseous entities, its light patterns flashing rapidly. From the observation deck, a thin being in formal attire leaned toward another. "They can multitask naturally, no neural augmentation required, and observe," said another, pointing at Taewon's face, It regulates temperature through fluid excretion, absolutely primitive yet remarkably effective. Taewon continued running for another 20 minutes, answering questions about Earth's gravity, atmosphere and biology without showing significant fatigue. By the time he stepped off the stage, the mood in the chamber had shifted from curiosity to something else: fear. Back in their quarters, the team reviewed their performance. "They didn't expect much from us," said Sumin. "That's clear now." Hana nodded. "The others showed specialized adaptations. We showed versatility. And endurance," added Taewon, drinking water. "Did you see how shocked they were that I could run and talk?" June looked thoughtful. "We made an impression today, but I'm not sure it was the one we intended." That night, across Nexus Station, emergency meetings were being called, security protocols were being reviewed, and the classification of Earth as merely a Class 4.8 Deathworld was being reconsidered. The morning of the third day started normally for the human delegation. They ate breakfast together, discussed their plans for the summit meetings, and prepared for another day of presentations and discussions. But as June was finishing his coffee, the station lights flickered. "That's not good," said Taewon, immediately alert. A voice came over the station speakers, speaking in the standard consortium language. "Attention all delegates. We are experiencing technical difficulties with life support systems. Please remain calm and stay in your assigned quarters until further notice." Hana checked her tablet, which was connected to the station's information network. "Something's wrong. Different sections of the station are showing extreme environmental changes." "What kind of changes?" asked Su-min. "Temperature spikes in the eastern sectors, pressure drops in the north, and—" Hana paused, looking concerned. "Section C7 is showing exposure to vacuum." Their quarters shook as a distant boom echoed through the station. "That wasn't a technical difficulty," said Taewon. "That was an explosion." June made a quick decision. "Taewon, get our emergency gear. Hana, keep monitoring the station systems. Sumin, try to contact station control." While they prepared, more announcements came through, growing increasingly urgent. The station was failing section by section. Emergency pods were being activated for evacuation. "Still no response from control," said Sumin. "The station map shows most delegates heading for emergency pods," Hana reported. "But there's a group trapped in section D4. The path to their evacuation point is blocked." "What species?" asked. "Giant Mithrans. The crystalline beings. What are the conditions there?" "Increasing heat, dropping oxygen levels. Not dangerous for us, but fatal for them in about 20 minutes. June looked at his team. "We can reach them. The conditions between here and there are all survivable for humans." "The emergency protocols say to evacuate," Taewon pointed out. "Yes, but we can help," June replied. They geared up quickly. Each member of the Earth delegation had a compact emergency suit designed for brief exposure to vacuum, breathing apparatus for toxic atmospheres, and thermal regulation gear for temperature extremes. Moving through the station was like walking through a constantly changing obstacle course. Some sections were freezing cold, with ice forming on the walls. Others were hot enough to make sweat pour down their faces. In one corridor, the gravity suddenly increased, making each step a struggle. In another, it vanished completely, forcing them to pull themselves along using handholds on the walls. "I've never seen system failures this specific," Hana said as they paused to check directions. "Each section is experiencing exactly one type of extreme condition, almost like they're designed to test different species limits," Su-min added. June looked at Hana. "You think this is deliberate?" "I think we're being tested," Hana replied. "They want to see how dangerous we really are." They reached a sealed door leading to where the Mithrans were trapped. The corridor beyond was glowing red from the heat sensors. "Too hot for the Mithrans," Taewon said. "Their crystalline structures start to fracture at these temperatures." "But not too hot for us," said June, activating the door override. Inside, they found 7 Mithrans huddled together, their normally clear crystal bodies showing stress fractures from the heat. The beings vibrated in surprise when they saw the humans enter, without special protection. "You can survive this heat?" one asked through its translator. "This is like a summer day in some parts of our world," Sumin explained, while Taewon distributed their spare cooling packs to the most damaged Mithrans. "We'll get you to safety," June promised. "Can you move?" With humans leading the way and providing support to the weaker Mithrans, they began the journey to the nearest emergency pod bay. They crossed through a section where the air was thin, requiring the humans to use their breathing apparatus briefly. In another area, they faced near-vacuum conditions, forcing them to seal their emergency suits for the crossing. Through it all, the Mithrans watched in amazement as the humans adapted to each new challenge without hesitation. They reached the emergency pod bay to find it crowded with delegates from various species. A group of consortium observers stood apart, recording everything on their devices. "You rescued them," said one observer, not bothering to hide the surprise in its voice. "Why?" "They needed help," June replied simply, "but you could have secured your own safety first. That would be the logical choice for an apex predator species." Hana stepped forward. "On our world, we consider helping others in danger to be a sign of strength, not weakness." The observer made a note. "Fascinating. Our predictive models didn't account for this behavior. Apex predators typically do not risk themselves for other species." As the emergency situation was gradually brought under control, the human delegation learned they weren't the only ones who had helped others, but they had traveled through the most varied and extreme conditions to do so. Later, back in their quarters, the team discussed what had happened. "It was definitely a test," Hana confirmed, showing data she had retrieved from the station network. "They wanted to see how different species would react under stress." "Did we pass?" asked Taewon. Sumin smiled slightly. "I think we confused them. They expected us to be dangerous, but they didn't expect us to be dangerous and kind." June looked thoughtful. "I'm starting to think they invited us here not just to study us, but because they're afraid of us. They needed to know what we would do in a crisis." "And now they know," said Hana. "We're the species that runs toward danger, not away from it, especially when others need help." Across the station, the consortium observers were reviewing the day's data, struggling to update their models of human behavior. Their simulations had predicted humans would prioritize their own survival, or possibly work with other Deathworlders. No model had predicted they would risk themselves to save species they had just met. It was behavior that defied categorization as either predator or prey. For the first time, the consortium began to consider that perhaps their classification system was incomplete. Perhaps there was more to these humans than being dangerous survivors from a death world, and that possibility was, in its own way, even more unsettling. The emergency was over. The station hummed with its normal sounds again. All through the massive space structure, species from across the galaxy discussed what had happened. Many talked about the humans and how they had helped others. In their quarters, the human team rested. Taewon cleaned and checked their equipment. Hana studied data from the station's medical center about how different species had reacted to the crisis. June reviewed their schedule for the next day's meetings. Sumin was missing. "Where is Sumin?" June asked, looking up from his tablet. Hana glanced around. She said something about checking the station's communication systems. She was curious about why the emergency alerts were so delayed. June nodded, but felt uneasy. The summit so far had been nothing like they expected, first being treated like dangerous animals, then the accident that seemed more like a test. Something wasn't right. The door hissed open. Sumin stepped inside, her face pale. She clutched a small device in her hand. "Close the door," she said quietly, "and check for listening devices." Taewon immediately took out a scanner and swept the room while Sumin stood silently. When he nodded that it was clear, she connected her device to the main screen on the wall. "What's going on?" June asked. "I didn't just check the communication systems," Sumin explained. "I found a way into their secure network." "You hacked the consortium's files?" Hana asked, eyes wide. "That could be seen as an act of war." "They're planning something worse," Sumin replied. She tapped on her device and files appeared on the screen. "Earth wasn't invited here for integration. We're being assessed for containment. They're terrified of us." The team gathered around the screen, reading the translated alien text. "Page your after-page detailed plans, assessments, and recommendations about Earth." "This can't be right," Hana whispered. "It is," Sumin said. "The Deathworld Summit is a cover. Its real purpose is to determine which Deathworld species pose the greatest threat to galactic stability. And where do we rank? Taewon asked. Su-min pulled up another file. At the top, not because of our physical capabilities, they've seen stronger species. It's our social dynamics that scare them. She pointed to various sections of text. They're amazed by our ability to form quick alliances with strangers. They call our resource-sharing behaviors evolutionarily illogical. And they're deeply concerned by our tendency to protect beings we consider innocent or vulnerable, even non-humans. That's why they were so surprised when we helped the Mithrans, June realized. Exactly. Their models predicted we would only help other humans or maybe similar species. Our willingness to help any species in danger doesn't fit their understanding of how apex predators should behave. Hana scrolled through more files. But there's more. Look at this section on our technological development. The screen showed a timeline of human history with special focus on the last 200 years. They're tracking how quickly we advance, Hana explained. Most species take thousands of years to move from basic tools to space travel. We did it in a few centuries. And we did it while fighting among ourselves, Taewon added, reading another section. Most species achieve peace first, then technological advancement. We developed nuclear weapons while still divided into competing nations. Su-min pulled up one last file. This is the worst part. Their simulations predict that if left unchecked, humans will achieve interstellar dominance within 3 centuries. The room fell silent as they stared at the projection model showing human expansion across the galaxy. What do they mean by properly managed? June finally asked. Su-min's face was grim. There are several options they're considering. Limiting our technology, restricting our expansion to our home system, genetic modification to make us less aggressive or ambitious, or... She hesitated. Or what? Taewon demanded. Containment. A quarantine field around our entire solar system. June paced the room, his mind racing. So this summit, all the tests and observations, it's not about welcoming us to the galactic community. It's about deciding what to do with us. We need to contact Earth, Taewon said. Warn them. We can't, Su-min replied. All our communications are monitored, and the consortium controls all FTL communication technology. We're on our own. Hana was still reading through the files. There's disagreement among them. Some argue we're too dangerous to be allowed free development. Others point out our potential, as allies because of our adaptability. So not everyone wants to contain us, June said thoughtfully. No, but the containment faction seems to be winning the argument, Su-min warned. June looked at each member of his team. We have 2 days left before the summit ends. 2 days to change their minds. How do we do that? Taewon asked. We can't fight our way out. There are thousands of species here, and the station has defenses we can't even understand. We don't fight, June said firmly. We do what humans do best. We adapt. We communicate. We build alliances. With who? Hana asked. With everyone who will listen, June replied. Starting with the other Deathworlders. If Earth is being assessed for containment, so are they. The team looked at each other, the weight of their situations sinking in. They weren't just 4 people at a diplomatic summit anymore. They were fighting for humanity's future among the stars. The final day of the Deathworld summit arrived. Throughout the station, delegates hurried to meetings, shared information, and prepared for the closing ceremony. Many whispered about the humans. Stories had spread about their actions during the emergency, their strange abilities, and their unpredictable behavior. In their quarters, June and his team finalized their plan. Are we sure about this? Taewon asked. We could be making things worse. We've spent all night building support, Su-min said. The Drak are with us. So are the Vespiri. Even the Mithrans have agreed to speak on our behalf. And we don't have a choice, Hana added. If we do nothing, Earth gets contained. June straightened his formal uniform. Then let's go change some minds. The main chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of worlds. At the center, the Consortium High Council, 12 beings from the oldest and most advanced civilizations, presided from a raised platform. They looked down as June and his team took their places. The lead counselor, a tall being with silvery skin, rose to speak. Before we conclude this historic summit, we must address the matter of new species integration. The Council has reviewed all data and prepared recommendations for each Deathworld species. June glanced at his allies around the room. The Drac representative nodded slightly. The Vesperi swarm shifted in anticipation. Regarding Earth, the Councillor continued, our analysis indicates significant concerns. While humans have shown remarkable adaptability and potential, their unpredictable nature and rapid advancement pose unique challenges to galactic stability. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Therefore, the Council recommends a period of restricted development, during which human expansion will be limited to their home system, and certain technologies will be... I request permission to address the Council, June interrupted, standing. The chamber fell silent. Interrupting the Council was not done. The Councillor paused, then nodded stiffly. The human delegate may speak. June walked to the center of the floor, feeling the eyes of 1,000 alien species upon him. Honored councillors, distinguished delegates, he began. We know the truth. This summit was never about integration. It was about assessment and containment. Gasps and whispers filled the room. The councillors shifted uncomfortably. Yes, we discovered your plans, June continued, but I'm not here to make threats or demands. I'm here to offer a different path forward. He took a deep breath. You've been so focused on the dangers of our world that you've missed the opportunities. Humans don't just survive, we adapt, we improve, we cooperate. These aren't threats, they're exactly what your static civilization needs. The lead councillor frowned. Explain. Your own reports show that major technological advancement among consortium species has slowed over the last 1,000 years. Your societies are stable but stagnant. You've eliminated conflict, but also competition and innovation. June gestured to the other Deathworlders in the room. Meanwhile, species like ours continue to evolve and advance, precisely because we face challenges. We solve problems you've never encountered. We think in ways you can't predict. The Drac representative stood. The human speaks truth. You fear us because we are different, but difference brings strength. The Vesperi swarm rose next, their collective voice filling the chamber. We too have observed the pattern. The consortium grows comfortable, not stronger. One by one, other Deathworlders stood in support. The Mithrans, the gaseous Eroans, even some non-Deathworlders joined them. June raised his voice to be heard above the growing discussion. Instead of containment, I propose partnership. A Deathworlder Advisory Council with representatives from all worlds like ours, offering our unique perspectives on survival and adaptation. The chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates shouted objections, others called for consideration. The councillors huddled together, speaking urgently. Finally, the lead councillor raised a hand for silence. What you propose is unprecedented, they said. The consortium has existed for 50,000 years without such a body. Then perhaps it's time for change, June replied. Unless you prefer that Deathworlders like us find our own way in the galaxy without your guidance or cooperation. The unspoken threat hung in the air. Uncontained Deathworlders, forming their own alliances, developing their own technologies. After hours of debate, amendments and voting, a decision was reached. The Deathworlder Advisory Council would be formed, with limited powers at first, but a permanent place in galactic governance. Earth would not be contained. Humans would be allowed to develop and explore, though with certain oversight and cooperation, agreements. As the summit officially ended, delegates approached the human team with questions, concerns, and offers of cooperation. Some remained fearful, but many were curious. 3 days later, as they prepared to board their shuttle for the return journey, Hannah stood with June at the viewing window, watching stars glimmer against the blackness of space. They invited us, hoping to find reasons to fear us, she remarked. Instead, they found reasons to need us. June smiled. That's the thing about humans. We're at our best when underestimated. Behind them, Su Min approached with news. The first diplomatic delegation to Earth has been approved. 20 representatives will arrive in 1 month. Have you told them about our welcome plans? Taewon asked. Not everything, Su Min replied with a small smile. I thought the beachside reception with fireworks could be a surprise. They laughed, imagining the aliens' reactions to explosions, of light and sound used for celebration. As their shuttle departed from Nexus Station, June looked back at the massive structure. This had been just the beginning. Humans were now part of something larger than Earth, larger than themselves. There would be challenges ahead, misunderstandings, perhaps even conflicts. But humans were good at facing the impossible. It was what they did best. On the station, the consortium observers watched the human shuttle depart. "Are we making a mistake?" one asked. "Possibly," another replied, "but containing them would have been a greater one." The education, it seemed, was just beginning. For both sides.